YouTube, welcome to another session of Seven Color Sunday podcast. Sometimes guys are reflecting some terrible, horrific experiences that they may have gone through. As kids, as adults, there is a thing called trauma, man, in life, and a lot of men generally don't want to deal with this stuff. Yes, men are practical. I agree with that. It's very important to be practical. Society needs practicality. But to be amongst those that innovate, those that excel, you really need to understand who you are. And part of it is dealing with yourself. I've heard guys downplaying psychologists and mental health and all of that. But reality check, guys, it's a real thing. I don't know if there's been a bit of marketing into it, into the whole mental health thing. And, people are making money from it. And we all know that some or other point things have to be sold. And everything gets sold. Health, everything gets sold. Package it up and sell it. But it's not to say there's no such thing as a mental health crisis that society is going. I believe it is there. It's all about you understanding where you're from, where you headed. Because some dudes are just rolling it out, just walking this path like zombies, just hoping for the best. Not realizing some of the actions you take today are based on what you've experienced. You take a lot of these manosphere guys who've been divorced. They don't want to hear anything about marriage, and rightfully so, because of their experience. Perhaps some are still dealing with it, and at this point they feel like, nah, that's not the way to go. Your past traumas, it's key to deal with that. Some were told that you'll never amount to nothing on a daily basis, or told that they're ugly. You're an ugly dude. You look like that wall over there. You'll never amount to anything. That hammered through a person's mind. And sometimes, you know, people were told these kind of things by their own parents. That's the crazy thing about all of this. That some people were parents at a point when they were not ready to become parents. Then life's pressures start hitting you, as it usually does. Now you want to take it out on your kids. Now you're bringing all your nonsense towards your own children. It's like, why don't you just use protection and not have kids? Such a responsibility. So as you deal with these traumas that you would have gone through, and only you know what those traumas are, it's important to, man, just to acknowledge where you come from and where you're going, and to just forgive yourself, forgive those that did all of that to you. I'm a big advocate for taking personal responsibility as well. So it's not about saying, oh, my father did this or my mom did this. You get over it. You realize that they too were just human beings just trying to figure this thing out. So you man up and you just, do what you need to do to get over whatever it is you need to get over. Because if you don't, those are the things that set you back. Many people get material success. You drive the car, you've got the house, you sorted, making the big bucks, whatever it is that's big to you. You feel like you sorted in your life. And your weakest link is that thing that you just never dealt with. Could be alcohol, could be womanizing, could be drugs, could be a vice, a vice that's just become poisonous to your entire being, entire system. Man, you have to deal with that before it deals with you. So I'm just speaking out loud here, man. It's not a lecture of any sort. It's just reality check. So as guys criticize, look down on people that are trying to deal with mental health in inverted commas, it's important to realize, man, sometimes those same people dissing this entire thing have not dealt with their own traumas. When dealing with trauma, it's also easy to kind of just blame other people. Say, oh, this happened because, I'm behaving this way because this happened to me. It's that whole thing of at which point do you become an adult? At which point do you stop blaming others around you, your parents, etc. Positive self-image, there's a thing called positive wording and negative wording. So you could be sending an email to a client and you could be coming off as too desperate or too submissive. You have to balance it out. You have to balance it out where, you're firm, professional. You can't come off as too pleading. The whole thing with positive wording and negative words. So what kind of wording are you giving to yourself? Are you negative towards yourself? Man, and it becomes addictive. It becomes very addictive. It's easier. It's easier to blame your past. It's much easier to blame others. But at which point do you take accountability and responsibility and say, you know what, to hell with your opinion, to hell with your actions towards me. That's not what I'm about. The messed up thing is when parents do that to kids who should not be dealing with such nonsense. But because of lousy parenting, parents who haven't dealt with their own insecurities put a pile on their children. And, at that point, they don't have the know-how on how to deal with these things. They don't have the know-how. They don't know how to deal with being told that they're a certain way, and harshly so. Don't become a parent when you're not ready to deal with these things. Rather, deal with yourself. Sort yourself out. Many people are struggling with a lot of trauma. From the way you saw your parents dealing with each other to being rejected, whether it's by a woman or employment or business, it could be anything. How do you deal with negativity? And that's all part of it, man. It's all part of life, right? You have to find a way. So this just came up, in my mind. I just thought, damn, not handling past traumas and taking your mental health seriously can be an issue. Times we want to be tough and rough and not want to admit these kind of things. Like, man, I'm struggling with this specific thing. Man, my boys are gonna look down on me for this. So you push it aside, but it's a thing that's really, really tormenting. The best way to deal with anything is to face it head on. What's the worst that can happen? Ultimately, you keep going back, you defeat that. For one person, having a beer is a simple thing. But for someone else, it triggers so many other things. Then guys say, hey, you don't hang around this dude, man. This guy will embarrass you. After 2 drinks, he's doing nonsense. You laugh at it, but man, most people going through these things are dealing with a lot of psychological issues. And I'll come out with it and say, as black people, as Africans, we don't want to deal with it in a modern sense of the word. How many people check themselves in and just go and chat to a psychologist? Your elders could be your psychologists. I just mean, like, just talk about it. Take actions. Have an action plan. This is how I'm gonna handle this thing. This is how I'm going to overcome. This is how I'm going to deal with this thing. It's not going to overpower me. I'm going to conquer this thing. Handle it, bro. Handle it before it handles you. Sometimes you get that dream that you've been chasing. You acquire it. You get it, and you're there. You've achieved your dream, but you've neglected this one thing that's been bothering. And that one thing can take everything that you've worked hard for away. Imagine that. Like, just because you neglected that one thing you consider tiny, that's the thing that can ultimately destroy your business, your career, your relationship with your spouse or children or family. We need to address these things. We need to, and be brave about it. I think when you're on the path of trying to change certain things, you need to just focus on overcoming, constantly overcoming, regardless of how many times you fall. It's how am I going to overcome this thing? How am I going to address this issue? Forget what others around you are doing or thinking or their achievements. Just handle whatever it is you need to overcome. We all have it. We all have it. We all have that thing that we need to overcome. And that's the one thing that can destroy everything you've sacrificed and worked hard for. Just a thought. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Like and subscribe. I hope to catch you on the next one. Let me know what you think about these short convos or discussions. Blessings.